A fork in the road, Trump's moves on Ukraine mark a sharp break from the past US approach underline deepening divisions with Europe. In the face of US President Donald Trump's diplomatic blitzkrieg on Ukraine, Europe and Ukraine itself confront the risk of marginalization. After a 90-minute phone call with Russian President Putin, Trump announced that negotiations to end Russia-Ukraine war would begin immediately. Officials from Washington and Moscow will reportedly hold talks in Saudi Arabia and in the coming days to negotiate a potential peace agreement. Kiev, however, has not been invited and does not plan to attend, while French President Emmanuel Macron has convened is convening an emergency meeting of European leaders on the issue. Trump's bold moves mark a sharp departure from the approach of his predecessor, Joe Biden, who had not spoken to Putin since the Russian invasion and had labeled him a murderous dictator. Trump's outreach effectively ends nearly 3 years of the West's isolation of Russia. By all accounts, the Trump administration appears intent on getting along with the Kremlin, and the resulting diplomatic dissonance between the US and Europe over Ukraine suggests that the West will remain a house divided in the near future. Russia currently occupies about a fifth of Ukraine and insists that Kiev cede this land, which would eventually be rendered permanently neutral. US Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth appeared to echo this stance last week at the NATO headquarters in Brussels and dismissed a return to Ukraine's pre-2014 borders as unrealistic, a position undoubtedly welcomed by Moscow. Trump has even gone to say that Ukraine may be Russia one day. Alarmed by US President's unilateral moves, Europe is unlikely to give in easily. The emergency summit hosted by Paris is an indication. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has reassured Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky that his country remains on an irreversible path to NATO membership and that he will consider deploying British peacekeeping troops to support Kiev. Trump's plan stands in sharp contrast to Europe's commitment to Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity. If Trump's deal moves forward, Europe's best course of action may be to bolster its military alliance to effectively deter future Russian expansionism. During his recent visit to the US, Prime Minister Modi said India is not neutral, India is siding with peace. Modi's diplomatic engagements last week reflected India's commitment to its ties with the US and France, and the latter began the EU's second most powerful country after Germany. At the same time, Delhi considers Moscow a reliable partner and would welcome any development that arrests the deepening of China and Russia's no limits alliance. Peace in Europe would also bring economic stability, energy security, and increased trade opportunities for India on both sides of the divide. Western powers would have the time and the resources to shift their focus to countering China's growing influence in the Indo-Pacific, a key strategic priority for India. If it ends up giving a peace a chance, potential Trump-Putin agreement would bring gains for India too. Draft bill allowing private universities in Kerala has potential to transform state's higher education. For decades, Kerala's education system has been marked by paradox. Even as school education thrived and was held as a source of state's pride, the limitations of its higher education led many students to leave the state in pursuit of better options and great opportunities. Last week's decision by Kerala's Left Democratic Front, led by led government, to ratify a draft bill that would permit private universities to operate in the state has a potential to change this predicament, stem the outflow of students, and going forward, perhaps even transform the state into an education hub. The draft bill marks a welcome shift in policy, especially in light of the CPM's historical opposition to opening up the higher education sector to private players. The issue has indeed long been contentious. There have been massive protests against the previous attempts to open up higher education, most notably in the US. In most notably in 1995, when during against the Congress-led United Democratic Front government's opening of a medical college in a cooperative sector. Five, five Democratic Youth Federation of Workers were killed in police firing. The CPM has also vehemently protested against the AK Antony-led Congress government decision to start self-financing engineering and medical colleges to address the issue of students migrating to other states for higher education, as well as the 2014 decision to grant autonomy to reputed arts and science colleges in the state. There has since been a softening in its stance, as Higher Education Minister Arvindu pointed out last week. This was inevitable at a time when competition has sharpened. The decision taken last year to institute a 4 year undergraduate format at all universities was also a step in that direction. Among the changes introduced were a uniform academic calendar and a greater flexibility for students in choosing subjects, allowing them to design their own curriculum. The latest move is yet another acknowledgement of the growing demand for greater institutional diversity, enhanced research opportunities, world class infrastructure. However, its success will depend largely on the regulatory framework that governs these universities. Kerala must now take care to ensure that private universities enhance rather than undermine the state's academic ethos. This is an opportunity to be built on. Private universities can bring fresh investment, global collaborators, and interdisciplinary research that strengthen Kerala's academic ecosystem. They can ensure that ambitions of Kerala students and also of aspirants from other parts of the country are met. To ratify a draft bill that would permit private universities to operate in the state. The draft bill marks a welcome shift in policy, especially in light of the CPM's historical opposition to opening up the higher education sectors to private players. Shackling the cartoonist, if we are too touchy about cartoons, we will shrink our leaders' space in history. Lightning has strung access to digital edition of this 100-year-old popular Tamil periodical seems blocked after the state BJP leaders demanded ban on cartoon since it carried showing Prime Minister Narendra Modi in chains sitting alongside Trump. Wallace and Gromit wins at BAFTA prove the value of handmade in a world entrapped by AI. But the two BAFTA wins for Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, the Best Animated Film and Children's Family Film, show that even as the industry embraces new technologies, a film made with old school techniques can win both hearts and trophies. Reservation for Muslims is a bad idea. Affirmative actions for Muslims is the need of the hour. If you say yes to both these propositions, as I do, you may appear inconsistent. It is, if not self contradictory. That's not your fault. The fault lies with cramping of our imagination of social justice in contemporary India. As a result, affirmative action has become synonymous with reservation, and that too in government jobs and public education. All battles of social justice turn into battles for and against quota or quota within quota. Every group that suffers from any form of disadvantage or discrimination or just unmet needs asks for reservation. Ex-servicemen, sexual minorities, displaced persons. The Indian state is like a surgeon standing at the operating table with just one big knife for an instrument. No wonder there is demand for reservation for the entire Muslim community. The demand gained pace ever since the Sachar Committee report recognized Muslims as a socio-religious group, though the SCR Such a Committee report refrained from recommending reservation for Muslims. It recorded their service severe educational and economic disadvantages. The first official document to do so in a comprehensive manner in 2007, the National Commission for Linguistic and Regional Religious Minorities recommended a 15% quota for minorities, 10% for Muslims in jobs and education. This demand has found acceptance among many Muslim leaders and intellectuals as the community finds itself increasingly beleaguered on multiple fronts in recent years. No one expects this demand to be conceded by the present regime, but reservation is held out as the future frame for justice for Muslims. A recently released report takes us beyond this conventional frame, authored by Hilal Ahmed, Mohammad Sanjeer Alam, and Nazima Perveen for the US India Policy Institute Center for Development and Policy and Practice. This report, Rethinking Affirmative Action for Muslims in Contemporary India, pushes this debate forward in three steps. First, it makes a case why there is a need for affirmative action. Second, it acknowledges that reservation for the community is not good solution. Third, and most importantly, it suggests a bouquet of policy to address the real and pressing disadvantages of various Muslim communities. This report provides the right framework to think about this vexed issue in public policy and should prompt a serious flow up research. The first point should be obvious to anyone with a specific sense of Indian society under threat from the current political dispensation. There also The first point should be obvious to anyone with a basic sense of Indian society. Muslims are not just a religious minority under threat from the current political dispensation. They also happen to be disadvantaged social group in educational and economic terms. The report updates the story documented by the Sucha Committee report. Using the latest official data, it reminds us that Muslims are comparable to SC and ST communities in educational attainment and OBCs in income and wealth. Educational disadvantage of young Muslims is not merely a function of their economic status or even their parental education. Compared to Muslim counterparts with same level of family income and parental education, and upper caste Hindus are more than twice as likely to enter higher education, go to private institutions, and opt for engineering and professional courses. That's a staggering inequality of opportunity. Things are much better in southern and western states, and there are signs of improving in recent times. Yet, the huge gap calls for remedial action by the way of affirmative action. There are three reasons for reservations may be the right affirmative action needed in this case. There is a legal constitutional issue. The constitution does not explicitly allow. There are three reasons reservation may not be right. Affirmative action needed. The Constitution does not explicitly allow a religious community to be recognized as a socially and educationally backward class, as the judiciary has rejected this possibility. There is a sociological issues. Muslims are not homogeneous community. They comprise hundreds of biradris whose social, educational, and economic profile vary as widely as Hindu caste. There is also a political issue in the case in the present and foreseeable context. Any proposal for reservation of Muslims would be used to orchestrate a countrywide counter mobilization, the last thing Muslims need in today's India. What then is the option to address the socio-economic disadvantage and discrimination that Muslims suffer from? The challenge is different from the security and identity challenges all Muslims face as a religious minority, something they may share with other religious minorities like Christians who do not face educational economic disadvantage. The report recommends a cluster of overlapping policies, none meant exclusively for Muslims, that could be trusted to help improve their educational and economic condition. The report suggests an alternative religion agnostic quota approach, one instead of providing separate reservation or including all Muslims in OBC category, there is a need to ensure that all backward Muslim communities are included in OBC list. Currently, only half the Muslim population qualifies for OBC benefits. Evidence benefits that education and economic conditions of more than three-fourths of Muslim makes them eligible as OBCs. States like Andhra, Telangana, and West Bengal started their remedial action of including more Muslim communities. North Indian Hindi belt needs to follow this path. Two, instead of one blanket category of OBC, it should be split into at least two lists of extremely backward and backward communities. The report argues against temptation to put Muslims, OBCs, into a separate subquota as has been done in Kerala and Karnataka. Different Muslim communities should be placed in different lists of OBCs depending on the evidence of their backwardness. Third, this religious agnostic approach would require that current ban on untouchable Muslim communities are being classified as SC be removed. Dalit Muslims and Christians should enjoy the benefits of reservation. Finally, to address institutional discrimination strictly on religious grounds, there is a need for an anti-discrimination law and an equal opportunity commission. Anti-discrimination law and equal opportunity commission. The report's recommendations go beyond reservation and public sector. One, it needs to, it backs the spatial approach of targeted improvement of public infrastructure in localities with concentration of Muslim population, and this has been tried after SCR moving from the identification of minority concentration districts to blocks, localities, and villages. There is a need to fine-tune this guard against gaming the ecosystem to benefit only the non-Muslim population in these areas. Two, the report endorses sectoral approach involving substantial state support for enterprises and occupations such as weaving, lock and brass manufacture, carpet and perfume making, and the meat industry that happen to be dominated by Muslim communities. This approach could involve targeting educational sectors where Muslims enjoy a comparative advantage or where their presence requires a special boost. 3. The report hints at engaging with the private sector through its proposals are nebulous at this stage. Any enforcement of quota may be counterproductive here, but the state can mandate diversity requirements to qualify for governmental subsidies and contracts. Finally, we need to look beyond the state and think of innovative ways to nudge NGOs, self help groups, and community charities to address the needs of local Muslim communities. None of this is going to happen in the near future under a regime that draws its sustenance from an anti Muslim politics. But someone needs to draw up a blueprint and keep it in drawer for future use. The approach adopted by this report looks like smartest feasible option we have for the foreseeable future. The report's recommendation to go beyond reservation and public sector when it backs a spatial approach of targeted improvement of public infrastructure in localities with concentration of Muslim population. Spatial approach. This has been tried after SCR. And two, the report endorses the sectoral approach, involving substantial state support for enterprises and occupations such as weaving, lock and brass manufacture, carpet and perfume making, meat industry that happen to be dominated by Muslim communities. The gruesome ragging of a junior nursing student at the government nursing college in Kottayam has shocked the nation. All five accused arrested and remanded in police custody are around 20-year-old. Just one out what just out of their teens. Apparently the ragging started 3 months ago. In the second week of November, a video allegedly shot by one of the perpetrators of the crime is available to the police as well. It shows the student on a cot with his hands and legs tied, seniors jabbing him with a sharp object and pouring some lotion onto his mouth. The victim was so scared that he did not inform his parents, classmates, and college authorities till this week. Possibly he was aware of the fate of the Siddharthan, a 20-year-old student of the College of Veterinary and Animal Sciences. A year ago, he was allegedly ragged for months by members of the college's dominant student union associated with the ruling dispensation in Kerala. He was found hanging in his hostel toilet. The police claimed it was suicide, but most people did not buy the story. They believed it was murder. The college administration pretended that they knew nothing about what was happening, even though most of the ragging reportedly occurred in common areas of the hostel. Similarly, Kottayam incident of nursing college administration claimed they knew nothing of what happened, though it has been going on for 3 months. Victims are mostly scared to complain because student unions are powerful in Kerala. Like the trade unions in the highly politicized environment in universities, vice chancellors are not often seen as going against the power that be. In most cases, impunity is the order of the day. Little wonder that freshers in college who are just in their teens decide to suffer through their pain even when there is a danger to their lives. Despite the prevalence of ragging in the Kerala colleges, it has been so violent in the past. The state also enacted a law banning ragging. Still, the college authorities often turn a blind eye out of fear and political affiliations. I am completely shocked and ashamed. I am from Kottayam and I was its district collector from 1988 to 1991. Kottayam has so much to boast about it. It became the first town in the country to achieve 100% literacy in 1989. The entire country celebrated it. It became the role model for the National Literacy Mission. It was a collaborative effort of the district administration, MG University, authorities, political parties, and citizens at large. Eventually, Kottayam became the most literate district in the country in 1990. It achieved a quality of health index better than US in 1990. The mass contact program we started in 1989, we took the entire district administration to the predetermined panchayats, won the highest UN award for innovation in governance. As per the Niti Aayog's latest assessment, Kottayam is only zero poverty district in the country. Malayalam Manorama, the largest circulating newspaper in India, and Dainik Jagran uh, is published in Kottayam, one of the largest newspapers in publishers in India. In terms of titles published, DC Books is from Kottayam. One of the India's best tourist destination, Kumarakom, is in Kottayam. It is globally acknowledged that Kerala's nurses are among the best in the world. They are kind, compassionate, and professional. Many girls pursue nursing because it is a guarantee for an independent and dignified life. A large number of nurses come from Kottayam district. However, how come such a city of letters and accomplishments produced such people whose brutality against their fellow students shock the whole world? I don't I do not know the exact answer. I cannot comprehend the psyche of these criminals who derive so much pleasure from inflicting pain on their college mates. What do they gain from it? Where did they learn to be so brutal? After all, they were out of school just a couple of years ago, and many of them are still teenagers. Did they learn this in school? Did they acquire these violent traits from their families, or do they feel the need to assert their masculinity in college as part of the youth student union, or is it the social media which serves as the primary influence on these youngsters? I think the ultimate responsibility lies with the parents of these students. How many parents today have a conversation with their children at least 3 times a week on fundamental issues? The secondary responsibility lies with our schools, where foundations of ethics and morality should be taught, and today all they care about are marks, ranks, and entrance examinations. I think we need to take a hard look at what is going wrong. I still love Kottayam. A few people can't destroy a city and its culture. Let's not eat cake. The leaders we choose seem ill equipped to address today's problems. Marie Antoinette's apparent offering to her starving subjects, "Let them eat cake," led to the French Revolution, which eventually led to the transformation of political systems around the world. The French population felt their queen did not represent them. Discussions in Davos by world leaders were largely around the Trump effect. Some attention was given to climate change and the wars in Gaza and Ukraine. One couldn't help but notice how every country represented its own interest, like a game of chess. Volodymyr Zelensky talked about how helping Ukraine was imperative for Ukraine Europeans, as the war could escalate very quickly at their doorsteps. His goal: aid for Ukraine to fight its war with Russia. Ursula von der Leyen, head of the European Commission, talked about how heavy tariffs against Europe would not be the interest of the US, as it needed Europe, while protecting from one's self-interest is natural and logical. Currently, the biggest threats, whether it's current climate change or artificial intelligence, are ones we face collectively as humanity. Will thinking derived from self-interest help us solve these problems on a more personal level? Whether we think selfishly, as humans, we don't achieve much. At corporate level terms, achieving great things. At a family level, a unit raises children more effectively than a single parent. At the level of humanity, we build on research and learnings from our ancestors to improve our lives, yet at a political level, we think on the plane of individual countries. Maybe the problem lies in the way we leaders elect representatives. If we look at how they are elected, for the most part, they need to fight for funding and eyeballs as they navigate a polarized environment. The title of politician comes with connotations of manipulation. or suaveness for a reason. They rarely display the temperament of those that they represent. No wonder many Americans feel that Donald Trump, on an ideological level, doesn't represent their America, even he has been elected to represent them. If we look at the business world, which works somewhat independently of the political world, we have a lot more collaboration. An iPhone is designed by Apple Inc. in the US, manufactured in China, uses software made in India, and a chip made in Taiwan is sold in London. Businesses thrive on teamwork. Collaboration is the cornerstone of successful business. In fact, von der Leyen said, using a political tool like tariffs, as Trump is threatening to do, to disrupt the global trade network would be nearly impossible. There are too many interdependencies. It would be near impossible, but not impossible, and if deployed, could destroy the system. The prospect of it already wreaking havoc on stock markets, that is, disruption of one political leader like Trump can cause. He can set off a chain reaction of distrust and panic and disrupt an effective collaborative system that has worked well for decades. Academia tends to reflect future trends in society. Advanced education systems are moving from competitive thinking in schools to collaborative thinking. Children are made to work increasingly in teams to find solutions and are graded in larger generic grading systems. As Barack Obama said, if you had to choose a moment in history to be born and you didn't know ahead of time who you would be, you would choose now. You have Over the past century, human longevity has increased and our lives have become considerably easier, and yet humans today have less and less free time. The tools that have given us efficiency have also taken away our quality of life. According to 2018 WHO study, 1 in 8 people in world lives in a mental health disorder, and the number has only steadily increased since. The 15th and 16th centuries were termed as Zinasa, meaning rebirth, a period that was associated with great social change in most fields, ranging from art and politics to exploration. It gave rise to figures like Leonardo da Vinci and Christopher Columbus. The 17th and 18th century were the Enlightenment, where reason and secularism became paramount. To describe the times we are in now, we use terms like information age, digital age, or nuclear age. We measure our years in products, not personal development as we did in the past. Products that are not helping us become happier. We need a shift in perspective and a move away from measuring our success in terms of materialistic products to focus on collective human development instead. Looking at mental health numbers that reflect our current state, or the threats of climate change and artificial intelligence that are in front of us, the world is at let them eat cake moment. We need to reinvent the system that represents us and think of new ways and solutions collaboratively. US Russia to hold talks in Saudi Arabia today on ending war, Ukraine not invited. France holds emergency meeting of EU countries and the UK. Zelensky says won't accept the outcome if Kiev doesn't take part. Trump admin tries to bring back fired were nuclear workers in Doge reversal. The Trump administration halted the firing of hundreds of federal employees who were tasked with working on a nation's nuclear weapons program in about a phase that has left workers confused and experts cautioning that Doge's blind cost cutting will put communities at risk. Trump fires FAA air traffic staff. The Trump administration has begun firing several hundred FAA employees, appending staff on a busy air travel weekend, and just weeks after the January fatal mid-air collision at Ronald Reagan Washington National Airport. Probationary workers were targeted in late night emails Friday notifying them that they had been fired. David Sparrow, president of the Professional Aviation Safety Specialist Union, said in a statement the impacted workers include personnel hired from the FAA radar, landing and navigation and maintenance. Downloads of DeepSeek's AI apps paused in South Korea. No regret over Adani walkout. The Sonaike, first openly gay imam shot dead in South Africa. A man regarded as the first openly gay Muslim imam has been fatally shot while sitting in a car in South Africa in what many are calling as assassination because of his teachings. Israel says it will keep forces in 5 locations in Lebanon after withdrawal deadline today. 41 ex-police officers held in Bangladesh for atrocities during student-led protest. Singapore opposition leader fined for lying to House panel escapes disqualification. US position on Taiwan has regressed China. The US position on Taiwan related issues has seriously regressed, the Chinese foreign spokesperson said after the US State Department removal of a reference to Taiwan's independence in an update to Taiwan section of its website. The US Department has removed a statement on its website that it does not support Taiwan's independence. Among changes that the island's government praised on Sunday as supporting Taiwan. Conclave named Best Film at BAFTAs. Brutalist bags 4 award. Conclave named Best Film at BAFTAs. Conclave, the Papal selection thriller Conclave and period drama Brutalist were the big winners at the BAFTA. We live in the times of crisis in democracy and institutions that are usually used to bring together and are used to pull us apart. And sometimes it's hard to keep the faith in that situation, but that's why we make movies and that's why we made this movie. Raising insurance cover for depositors above 5 lakhs under active consideration. Government asks private insurers to extend free look period up to 1 year. The government has asked private insurance companies to extend the free look period for insurance policies from the present 1 month to 1 year period. Renewed Indo-US nuclear cooperation a diplomatic upside with three clear gains. An announcement of the renewed nuclear cooperation with US makes a significant diplomatic upside for India in what was a rather concessionary first interaction for the Indian government officials with the tariff-obsessed new administration. There, there are perhaps three clear gains from the New Delhi's perspective. The commitment stated by the both sides to fully realize the US-India 123 civil nuclear agreement is a realistic admission of the lack of progress so far, and the need to leverage the gains of the Indo-nuclear deal 2 decades after it was signed. Large-scale localization and possible tech transfer at a time when US has extremely been transactional on the issue of balancing trade balances and supporting American manufacturing. The commitment to jointly build American designed nuclear reactors in India through large-scale localization and possible technology transfer is being seen as a gain for India. The focus of this new pact specifically indicates the intent to transfer technology from the US and manufacture equipment in locally in India for projects being set up here, which is against the grain of what Washington has generally been pushing for, bringing manufacturing back to the US. Large-scale localization and possible tech transfer at a time when US is being extremely transactional on the issue of balancing trade and supporting American manufacturers. The commitment to jointly build American designed nuclear reactors in India through large scale localization, and possible tech transfer is being seen as a gain for India. The focus on this for this new pact specifically indicates the intent to transfer the technology from the US and manufacture equipment locally in India for projects being set up here, which is against the grain of what Washington has been pushing for, bringing manufacturing back to the US. Chance to upgrade reactor specialization. The other upside is from the fact that this new deal offers a chance for India's nuclear sector to upgrade its reactor specialization to those in use across most parts of the world and an ability to scale up capacity addition against the current global pace of project development. The plan to leverage private sector capabilities to get into the niche but growing small modular reactor space is also significant. The other upside is from the fact that New Deal offers a chance to India's nuclear sector to upgrade its reactor specialization to those used most parts of the world and an ability to scale up capacity addition against the current global pace of project development. Plan to leverage into niche SMR space is also significant, though India's civil nuclear program has expertise in manufacturing smaller reactor types, 220 megawatt electric PHWRs, pressurized heavy water reactors, and above. The problem for India is its reactor technology. Based on heavy water and natural uranium, the pressurized heavy water reactors are increasingly out of sync with the pressurized water reactors, a light water nuclear reactor type that constitute the large majority of world's nuclear power plants and are now the most dominant reactor type globally. On the SMR side, India's Department of Atomic Energy is already learned to be in exploratory talk with collaborations with Camden, New Jersey based Holtec International, a privately held company that is now billed as one of the world's largest exporters of the China capital nuclear components. Then there is also the strategic incentive for India and the US to join forces to compete with China at a time when Beijing is working on an ambitious plan to seize an opportunity of global leadership in the SMR space. Unlike large reactors where China has been a latecomer, it, like India, Beijing is seeing SMRs as a tool of its diplomatic outreach in the global south and that the country could shake up the SMR industry. Just as it has done in the electric vehicle sector, both India and the US are ill placed to compete with China on their own, given India's technological constraints and US being seen as an impeded by relatively high cost of labor and growing protectionist mood in that country. In reality, by opening up the nuclear generation to US technology, India will finally emerge from technology isolation that has lingered nearly 2 decades after the country came out of a nuclear penalty box. Without acquiring the PWR know how, India cannot join the mainstream of the commercial nuclear world that Korea and China joined 3 decades ago. Opening up the nuclear sector will in fact create a deluge of work for the Indian companies. Chris Piesing, the American promoters of the Holtec International, told the Indian Express. Holtec has a non-nuclear manufacturing facility in Dahej, Gujarat, and has conveyed that it can double the workforce at that plant that has less than a year if proposed manufacturing plants are cleared. Dahej, Gujarat. Non-nuclear manufacturing facility in Dahej, Gujarat. It can double the workforce at a plant in less than a year if the proposed manufacturing plants are cleared. As for US, Holtec is planning to build a large nuclear technology campus in Pune, where we currently have a modest business presence. We'll also build a specialty manufacturing plant at a suitable place in India. We believe the proposed change in the law will spur investments to pour into India's nuclear sector from Middle East and Western capital markets. Nuclear will rise and nuclear's rise will have a knock-on effect on the whole Indian economy, Singh said. The 123 agreement signed by India and US way back in July 2007 did in fact explicitly aim to enable full civil nuclear energy cooperation between the two sides by providing for civil nuclear energy cooperation covering nuclear reactors and aspects of the associated nuclear fuel cycle, including enrichment and reprocessing. Since then, though there has been no progress on the ground and a single investment is yet to come through, primarily due to legislative impediments in India, the Indian government has signaled its intent to amend two key domestic legislations to address these concerns. Holtec's pitch for fostering a public-private initiative centered on the American company's flagship small modular reactor, the SMR-300, to potentially help break this stasis in the nuclear engagement between the two countries, with the possibility of using existing coal plant sites in India to deploy its proposed SMR-based projects and joint manufacturing at some point in the future. These developments come at a time when India is working to get into the manufacturing value chains of small modular reactors, both as a way of fulfilling its commitment to clean energy transition and bundling SMR as a technology-led foreign policy pitch. SMR small reactors with a capacity of 30 megawatt to 300 megawatt electric per unit are increasingly seen as important for nuclear energy to remain a commercially competitive option in the future, especially in the wake of surging power demand from the technology companies given the massive incremental electricity requirement coming in from AI machine learning applications and data centers. Holtec's SMR 300 is one of the seven advanced reactor designs supported by the US Department of Energy Advanced Reactor Demonstration Program. In 2020, the company's SMR project received $116 million award to help accelerate design, engineering, and licensing activities and is currently in the early design review stages in the United Kingdom and Canada to deploy its small reactor. Apart from Holtec's SMR 300, other emerging Western contenders in the SMR segment include Rolls-Royce SMR, NuScale's Voyager SMR, Westinghouse Electric's AP300 SMR, and GE Hitachi's BWRX 300. Profit booking leading FIIs to sell investments yielding good returns. Finance Minister to a query on how government was attempting to manage spillovers of rising inflation due to geopolitical pressures, Finance Minister said that inflation is being monitored regularly both by the supply side and from the monetary side by the RBI. She said inflation has been well within certain band and the last print showed that it has come down very close to 3-4%. CPI eased to 5-month low of 4.31% in January from 5.22% in December. That is one of the reasons why the RBI has chosen to cut interest rate nearly after 5 years. So inflation related management of supplies and also monetary policy are working in sync, and that is going on in order to favor the growth cycle. Xi holds rare meet with Chinese tech leaders amid trade rivalries with the US. Inclusion of electoral bonds in the new IT bill intrigues experts. New retaining provisions related to electoral bonds, which were rendered unconstitutional by the Supreme Court last year, saying it could be because of a legislative oversight of the government's intention to bring it back in some other form. Experts contract 23 Correction 2.38% in January. Trade deficit widens to $23 billion. India's merchandise trade deficit touched $23 billion in January as exports of petroleum production more than halved. Overall goods exports contracted 2.38% year on year to 36 billion dollars, a third straight month of contraction. Imports were up 10% to $59 billion. Despite the current account deficit has been contained at 1.2% of the GDP in the second quarter of 24-25 due to higher service export earnings. A jump was seen in imports of chemicals up to 71%, machinery to 27.81%, machine tools 34%. RPF trying to clear overbridge when platform for Kumbh special changed. This led to a stampede. At 8:45 p.m. announcement that the train to Prayagraj from platform 12, then another announcement said platform number 16, what set off a stampede at New Delhi railway station. Might night killing 18 people was an announcement about a change in the departure platform of a Kumbh special train to Prayagraj according and at around 8:45 p.m. an announcement was made that Kumbh Special was going to Prayagraj will depart from platform number 12, but after some time another announcement was made that Kumbh Special will leave from platform number 16. Vaishno 60 stations to get holding areas to regulate passenger rush. A separate holding area will be developed at 60 busy stations across the country to regulate the rush of passengers. As Qatar, Amir starts visit, trade, energy and tech ties on table. PM Narendra Modi receives the Qatar Amir Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani. Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Hamad Al Thani on his arrival in New Delhi on Monday. As Qatar Amir starts visit, trade, energy, and tech ties on table. In special gesture, PM Modi receives the Amir at airport meeting today. Why shouldn't contempt be initiated? Supreme Court on demolition of UP mosque. Supreme Court on Monday issued notice to authorities in Uttar Pradesh on a plea seeking contempt of court proceedings against them for demolishing a portion of mosque in Kushinagar. Election Commission Election Commissioner Gyanesh Kumar, new poll panel chief, LOP files dissent. Rahul asked government to wait until Supreme Court decides on a plea seeking inclusion of CGI and in panel. Haryana Chief Secretary Joshi is the new EC. Rise Against Cancer, an editorial appears in today's Indian Express as content paid for by the advertisers. In a special gesture, PM Modi receives Amir at airport meeting today as the Amir of Qatar, Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani began his two-day visit to India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, in a special gesture, went to the airport to receive him. Went to the airport to welcome my brother Amir of Qatar, H. Sheikh Tamim bin Hamad Al Thani, visiting him, wishing him a fruitful stay in India, and looking forward to a meeting tomorrow. Delhi hopes for some tariff easing as it works on a US trade agreement. Hopes for a concession during current now trade deal negotiations marks a shift from the past when India had chosen to retaliate against the US on steel and aluminum tariffs imposed during Trump's first term. This time, White House has said that exemptions to certain countries were exploited by China, and so concessions have broadly been ruled out. Oli steps in after protest over Nepal students' suicide rock over Odisha's varsity. Supreme Court flags number of places on Places of Worship Act will become impossible. Expressing dismay over the number of petitions being filed on Places of Worship Act, Supreme Court on Monday refused to entertain fresh writ petitions. The court, however, allowed those who have filed writ petitions on which notices have been issued so far to file intervention proof applications instead. Some poetic injustice as Justice J&K Court convicts faith leader of child abuse. The poem "Whisperers of Faith" echoes of fear penned by Chief Judicial Magistrate Mir Wajahat. He stood adorned in the robes of light, a shepherd sown to guide the night. With whispered prayers in sacred hands, he sowed the faith in shifting stands. A child approached with wide so wide, seeking solace, safe inside, but shadows stretched behind the glow, where whispered words turned cold as snow. Fear the jinn, but trust in me. I hold the key, I set you free. Yet chains were forged in the holy guise, where trust was lost in the silent cries. A touch, a word, a hollow stare, the scent of faith laced with despair, a promise spun in webs unseen, a nightmare unveiled, veiled in what had been. Years will pass, the wounds remain, the echoes whisper through the pain. From what was torn can just repair. A soul once bound floats in the air, but truth will rise, the stars will call, no shadow stands where justice falls. And though the scars may never fade, the dawn will break unafraid. Cop held for sheltering killers who shot dead businessmen. Low intensity quakes jolt Delhi Siwan, no damage. BJP yet to name CM, oath-taking ceremony may be held on February 20. The new Delhi Chief Minister alongside with the Council of Ministers is set to take oath on Ramlila Maidan on Thursday evening, almost a fortnight after the BJP emerged victorious. City may see three CMs under the BJP in 5 years, AP's Gopal Rai. The new CEC key role in reorganization of J&K, setting up Ram Temple Trust. Rajiv Kumar's term as poll panel chief ends today, the hits and the misses. Capping off 4.5 year tenure in the Election Commission, nearly 3 years of those, Chief Election Commissioner Rajiv Kumar will demit office on Tuesday after having conducted 31 assembly elections and the 24 Lok Sabha polls. A retired 1984 batch IS officer of the Bihar-Jharkhand cadre, Kumar joined the EC as the election commissioner on September 1, 2020, filling the vacancy caused by the unexpected resignation of the then election commissioner Ashok Lavasa. During the 19 elections, Lavasa had deferred with CEC Sunil Arora over giving a clean chit to the Prime Minister Narendra Modi and the then BJP President for alleged Model Code of Conduct violations. Lavasa, who was next in line to be the CEC and whose family members had come under the scanner of the Income Tax Department, quit the poll panel in 2020. He subsequently moved to the Asian Development Bank as its vice president. Kumar joined the poll party with Sunil Arora as the CEC and Sushil Chandra as his fellow EC in the midst of the controversy and criticism of the poll panel's role in 2019. Within days of his joining, the EC announced the Bihar Assembly elections to be held in October-November that year, the first elections to be held during the COVID-19 pandemic. Rajiv Kumar took over as CEC on 2022 when Chandra who had become CEC upon Arora's retirement, demitted office soon after he became the CEC. Polling body conducted the elections after the president and vice president and then began preparations for 24 Lok Sabha polls. Kumar focused on improving the transparency of finances of political parties, who had been a financial services secretary till retiring from service, found that many registered unrecognized political parties were potentially being used for money laundering and fraud as they were inactive but claiming tax exemptions given to parties. In cleanup drive, EC delisted 244 such parties and declared 253 others as inactive. In December 2022, the EC, headed by Kumar, floated the concept of remote voting and invited political parties to see a demonstration of a prototype of a revenue voting machine. In December 2022, Election Commission EC, headed by Kumar, floated the concept of remote voting and invited political parties to see a demonstration of remote voting machine. The idea, the EC said, was to use the RVMs in a single polling booth in locations outside the poll-going states so voters from the state could exercise their franchise. The idea never took off as political parties expressed concerns about the practicality and security of remote voting. Just as EC was set to announce in 2024 Lok Sabha elections, Election Commissioner Arun Goel abruptly resigned on March 9, 2024. Goel still had over 3 years of his tenure left and would have succeeded Kumar as the CEC this week. While Goel has not publicly spoken about his resignation, Kumar, when asked about it during the press conference, where the Lok Sabha poll dates were announced, said there was always dissent within the EC. Kicking off the Lok Sabha elections, Kumar told political parties not to make personal attacks and improve the level of discourse during campaigning. During the campaign, PM said election rallies that Congress would hand over the assets of women gold and Mother Sutra to those who have more children in reference to Muslims. When several complaints about these speeches landed at its doorstep, EC decided to send a notice to the BJP president. On the same day, it also sent a notice to the Congress president Kharge for a speech by Congress leader Gandhi. The Commission's decision to issue notices to a party president for words spoken by the leaders was a first. This move saw widespread criticism for the poll panel and Kumar from the opposition. By the time the Lok Sabha elections ended in June, the EC has issued 13 notices for the MCC violation, 6 censures and 3 temporary bans on campaigning. Of these, 5 notices were issued to BJP and 4 to Congress. EC faced scrutiny during the elections over transparency measures, with opposition parties and civil society groups hitting out over the delay in releasing turnout data. Amid questions about India's bloc future, can Congress and company find a common ground? Nirja Chaudhary column. Accelerating MSMEs, benefits for MSMEs that benefit the nation. Investment and turnover limits for the MSMEs have been for all MSMEs to be enhanced by 2.5 and 2x respectively. Investment 2.5, investment 2.5, investment 2.5. Improved credit guarantees, micro and small enterprises from 5 crore to 10 crores, startups from 10 crores to 20 crores, well-run exporters, MSMEs up to 20 crores. Credit cards with a limit of 5 lakh for micro enterprises registered on the Udyam portal, dedicated scheme for leather and footwear industry aimed at creating 22 lakh jobs and achieving a turnover of 4 lakh crore. Imports of a wet blue leather fully exempt from basic customs duty, crushed leather exports freed up from 20% duty. Loans up to 2 crore over the next 5 years for 5 lakh women, SC/ST and first time entrepreneurs. Exemption of capital goods extended to add 63 new capital goods to boost domestic manufacture of lithium-ion batteries. Basic customs duty fully exempt on cobalt powder and waste scrap of lithium-ion batteries, lead, zinc and 12 more critical minerals. Unified platform Bharat TradeNet set up to simplify trade documentation, financing, reducing non-tariff barriers and facilitating smoother international transactions. Benefits now for startups incorporated before 1st April 2030. Miami to Miami, the village at the heart of Punjab's migration dream. Inland waterways transport is the proving to be a game changer as well as emerging as an environment friendly and cost effective mode of transportation. Inauguration of IWT terminal at Jogi Ghopa on River Brahmaputra, National Waterway 2. Jogi Ghopa on River Brahmaputra. Jogi Ghopa. Jogi Ghopa on River Brahmaputra. The strategically located 91 km from Ghelupu, Bhutan and Bangladesh from 108 km from Bangladesh border and 147 km from Guwahati. Jogi Ghopa terminal is developed over 15 acres land at a cost of 82 crore. Proximity to multimodal logistic park at Jogi Ghopa, port of call on the India-Bangladesh protocol route for transit and trade and transit, entry-exit point for Bhutan exim cargo through waterways. Contribute to comprehensive development of northeastern region. Operational advantage 1.1 million ton per annum capacity. Concrete jetty and approach designed for electric level luffing crane for cargo handling. Facilitate trade of coal, stone aggregates, bitumen and petroleum products. Custom and Immigration Office offering one-stop solution for export and transit cargo. 1100 square meter covered storage with power backup and 11,000 square meter open storage. Proposed broad gauge in sliding to link Jogighopa terminal. 7,500 investment will transform Prayagraj Yogi. So that's all for today. An appeaser is the one who feeds a crocodile, hoping it will eat him last. Winston Churchill. So that's all for today. See you in the next one.